Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Now, moving on to our next panel session, it is going to be an all-women panel to discuss one of the ongoing hot topics, gender diversity in technology, the unconscious bias in AI. Now, let me call upon Ms. Aiza Azreen Ahmad, Chief Digital Business Officer, Malaysia Digital Economy Corporation, MDEC, who will be moderating this session and introduce our panelists for today. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Nadia. Thank you so much for that. Hi, everyone. I hope everyone's having a wonderful Thursday afternoon, wherever you're at. So welcome to Malaysia Tech Month. This is an hour-long of technology conferences, webinars, activities, where everyone gets to meet up and also exchange notes, exchange ideas, exchange aspirations and inspirations, all in the month long of August. And talk about inspirations, aspirations. I am truly inspired by today's panelists. I was just talking and chatting with them in the breakout room, and I'm extremely intimidated, but I'm going to change those intimidation into inspiration. So with me today, I have Dr. Ivana Bartoletti. I also have Dr. Sunita Kannan, and I've got Dr. Samara Banno. So I'm not going to talk too much today. The beauty of being a moderator is that I'm entitled to zero opinion, but I have this wonderful seat of making sure that I cajole, provoke, and say, come on, ladies, help us out here, right? So very quickly, what I want to share with you is that some of the things that we put together, like Dr. Sunita, if I can start with introducing you first, you can read about her in the app, but if I can introduce her first, she has a doctorate, and I've got to glance at my notes here, in philosophy, and Masters of Science in Computational Physics. That is just something that's beyond me. You have to explain to me later what that means. And I've got Dr. Samara, Statistical Machine Learning and AI University. And I found one that you have actually wrote before. Your publication is called Automated Performance Prediction for Personalized Learning. That's just an amazing thing that you've done. And of course, last but not least, and we've just met today, Ivana Bartoletti, and I'm going to call her Ivana, privacy hit a Deloitte and co-founder of Women Leading in AI Network. So it's just amazing. You've got a publication too, an Artificial Revolution on Power, Politics, and AI, right? So how we're going to start today is this. We're going to have one. I'm just going to divide this session into two bits, right? The first part is that we've talked about this earlier. Before we go to the technical questions, we're going to talk about things that are close to your heart. So I'm going to start first by saying this. What I would hope that this panel could be the catalyst in the future is this. AI is seen to be more nurturing. AI is seen to be something that we build together. It is paving the way for a better world. I have to be honest, when we talked about AI, and I've been in financial services, I've been in media company, when people talk about AI or artificial intelligence or machine learning, it has been, those topics have been quite cold. It's always about technology. It's always about, you know, the next emerging mumbo jumbo in digitalization, and everything is labeled under AI, and it has been very, very cold. And with me, with all of you here, my aspiration, and I hope as well, my hope for the future is that the three of us, or the three of you plus me, as you're, you know, hanging on your coattails, to ensure that AI can be seen more in terms of the warmth of it. So with that, with your permission, may I just start with Dr. Samara Banno. We talked about diversity yesterday, and maybe you can tell us about something that's close to your heart before we go to the technical questions. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Aiza, for this introduction and for having me in this event. It's my pleasure to be one of the panelists with this nice workshop, and also to talk about the question of why diversity matters. It's really, really important here, especially with the AI and the automated decision world and what's going on. We heard a lot about ethics, we heard about bias, transparency, explainability, but also we need to define something really important about the process of diversity. diversity in the technology, and how we build the flexibility and transparent automated decision for all type of people, for all type of population, and to have a fair decision that meet the consumer desires. So do you want me to go through the topic, or just pass?
I think you were talking about diversity earlier. Maybe hold that thought.
Right.
Yeah, hold that thought.
Okay. So because I will start by defining the diversity, and then I will move why diversity matters, and then I will start defining the challenges that we have in diversity and ways to tackle them. Yeah. So diversity, what is diversity? There is a quote saying diversity is the art of thinking independently together. It is, we have heard about gender, and as I said, and gender diversity. We have heard about ethical diversity. We have about regional diversity, and the differences between them. It's very deep. That affect the automated decisions, especially with the AI era. And what we really need to explain is the ways of seeing the world, and also the different values and different point of view from different population. We live in a world of lot, like it has a variety of everything, variety of products, variety of people, variety of thinking, variety of brains, variety of souls, and this brings me to some points why diversity matters to be addressed, especially in technology, because now we live in technology after the pandemic. Everything depends on technology. Everything is virtual. So we need to define what is a virtual diversity as well. So it just having a diversity creates better technology. When you get diverse group tend to solve a problem better than similar group, because they bring lots of idea. They have ability to think out of the box, and they have a free mind, free brains without any restrictions. They can go wild in their thinking without getting lost as well. So that will create a lot of let's say a lot of perspectives, a lot of creation, especially like in my field, when I stick with a type of machine learning algorithm and try to figure out the bias or try to manage the data with it. If I just think inside the box, but if I go outside the box, I will have a lot of idea. This is why I tend to ask other people that doesn't have any proficiency in the machine, in the technicality of the machine learning, but they have the inspiration of the desired outcome. So from that outcome, I can design my model and design my data. Also, this will bring us right thing to promote the technology for better users. And there are challenges of diversity, especially for now. And actually, it's not. It has been showing just when we're using the technology, but the diversity is being there since the beginning of the life, through the unconscious bias.
Unconscious bias,
Exactly. But now it happens because the technology reveals everything, reveals the decision, reveals the way of thinking, but people tend to judge silently. This is why you don't know what they think about you, which is really related to the unconscious bias.
But Samara, can I just get you to pause there, because you've said a very, very important point, which I thought maybe I want to give the floor to Dr. Sunita, because we talked about this yesterday. You don't know what people are thinking, and sometimes you put that whole entire limitation on yourself in terms of what you can do better. So hold that thought, because that's a very interesting point that you brought up. And with your permission, I'm just going to pass to Sunita, because yesterday we talked about what you felt around women just limiting themselves in the areas of STEM. So Sunita, would you like to say more beyond STEM, the participation of women, and what are the things that you thought would be the best way for us to solve the unconscious bias that we impose on ourselves?
Yeah, thanks, Aiza. So I think I just want to go back to a little bit of my history, right? So I was a double major physics and math, and I went on to doing my PhD in physics. And it was a very interesting time, because I went from an all-women undergrad school all the way to doing a PhD program in physics, which is like completely male-dominated. And I was basically confused, when I walked into the room and I saw such few women over there, and I was thinking, why is this happening? And it's you walk into a class and it's like 30 men, guys, and 4 girls, and you're just like, what's going on? It's the same thing happened, and then I got used to it, obviously. And then when I moved into consulting, I moved into technology consulting. The big 4, the big 5, and then now with a big tech company. And the whole while through in the space of data science, AI, I've never seen women as the majority. It's always been the minority. And when I've started interviewing women as well, they're very intimidated when they move into an interview in data science or data engineering or AI. And it's always, I don't know how to code. How do I get that? How do I learn that? And I think that's a very big limitation that we have as women, right? We tend to be very brutal to ourselves. I think that is a huge problem that we have amongst ourselves, and more so in Asia. I think that I've seen that girls are very they're very limiting to themselves. I just think that every time they go into an interview, they're a bit too honest about what they can't do. They don't highlight what they can do. And there's also an unconscious bias that you put on yourself. Like, I'm a woman. Am I good in computer science? Am I good in coding? Am I good in data science, data engineering? And then they just tend to fall back and say, no, I don't want to do that field because that's a guy thing. That's not a girl thing. It's like, when you're growing up and, you're playing with Barbie, and that's really not a guy thing, that's a girl. It's like all this kind of bias that we put on ourselves. Society has also trained us to be that way, right? I mean, when I was growing up, people around me, thankfully not my family, but people around me were like, are you going into medicine, or are you going into biology? And I'm like, no, I'm going into physics. It's like, oh, what is that? Engineering? I'm like, no, physics, pure physics. So it's a very big limitation that we place on ourselves. I think that as we look around ourselves, as we want to bring in more women in this field, whether it's STEM, whether it's AI, I think you definitely need to open up your mind and understand where the person is coming from, right? As a female, and know that she's not going to highlight and brag, because that's something that we tend not to do, which is terrible. I think we have to brag, and we have to make ourselves very much sellable in a role, right? Because that's the way we should be. And I think we sell ourselves too short. So all this unconscious bias since young, I think you need to sort of train your kids, your students, to think outside the box.
Yeah, when I first started digital, I agree with you. They're so male dominated, and they looked at me and said, do you even understand what digital means? But if we apply that to ourselves and say, yeah, no, I don't understand digital, I don't think we are going to be here today, and I'm going to have the luck and the honor of talking to all the three of you on the very important topic of AI. I mean,
I don't think the things I actually heard from people around me. Like, what are you here for? Are you here to get tea and coffee? Is something that I actually heard from someone, and I'm like, no. I'm here to actually lead an AI project. So, that's what I'm here for.
It's always too good to put them in their place by telling them this is what I'm going to do, and talk about that. Here we go. We have Dr. Bartoletti. Ivana, I'm just going to call you Ivana. I mean, when you talk about breaking glass ceilings, right? I'm reading about you. Like you're the Women of the Year 2019 in Cybersecurity Awards, right? You've got your growing reputation. You're an advocate for equality, privacy, and ethics. Now, I know that we didn't get the chance to talk about this, but maybe for the first couple of minutes, we would love to hear about you, what exactly that you do that really comes or really touch your heart. With Samara is diversity, with Sunita is more around unconscious bias that you need to lose and not impose on yourself. What would be yours before I go to the technical question?
Thank you. But first of all, thank you for, I'm delighted to be here. I mean, I didn't take a PhD, so I can't claim the doctor title. And I'm absolutely amazed by how wonderful you are. I mean, Sunita, Samara is amazing. It's great to be with you, and great to be at the sort of Malaysia Tech Month, because it's really, really important that we do this across the globe, and also we bring minds, to discuss the future of technology. I'll be very brief, and I absolutely adored what Samara. So I know Samara. We worked together with WLiAI on diversity. Sunita, you're absolutely right on bias and the fact you walk in a room as a woman and say yes, a cappuccino, please. So that happens. I would add one other thing, which is this: I strongly believe that technology is not just about tech, and especially when it comes to artificial intelligence. First of all, because it's very transformative. So this is really, really important, and it transforms the way we work, the way we live, the news we're exposed to, what we see, what we watch. Algorithms have increasingly a very strong allocative function, decide what we get and what we don't get, and increasingly a very strong editorial function, because they decide what we see and what we don't see when we navigate and browse the internet. So algorithms rely on data. Data is not neutral because there's a picture of society as it is now. If I look at society as it is now, I actually do not like it that much, because I don't think women are enough representative in society. So if I had to use this data to create the world of tomorrow, I'm saying, hold on a sec, that's not right. Predictive technologies use algorithms to replicate and code into algorithms society as it is, not as if we would like it to be. So there is a lot of social and political elements within technology and within artificial intelligence. The reason why I'm saying this is, yes, I do want a lot of women in STEM. I do want a lot of women in technology, but I also think it's very important to get a lot and more women where the decisions are made around where to invest, which technology to produce, how to define strategies for the use of AI. And by that, I mean at the top of businesses. By that, I mean in parliaments. AI is far more than simply technology.
Here. I mean, I could not agree more, because in this part of the world, if I can sum up everything that you guys have said, more participation in decision-making, more diversity in terms of women's participation, and losing the unconscious bias here. In this part of the world, in Asia, we do get opportunities to advance our career, that's for sure. But to actually be part of, I would say, earning your seat at the table to make the decision, that is something we're still fighting. And we hope that today that's the catalyst with the four of us here. I know I could not be more excited, and also very, very strongly coming across, saying that this is it. This is where we start. On that note, Ivana, stay with me there, because I've got a question for you. It's a kind of a technical question a little bit, but I think you can answer this with your eyes closed, right? So the question here is that AI systems, as you know, like when I mentioned earlier, is very cold and is very technologically based, right? Everybody looked at it, okay, this is the future and we need to be very technical. But it perpetuates existing forms of structural inequality, like what we just discussed, women making decisions at the table. Then it causes harm to underrepresented groups. So what are your thoughts on this? Because I know you are very much into ethics and also politics of AI. What do you think with perpetuating those systems?
As Kathy O'Neill said, an algorithm is an opinion in a code. Ultimately, the fabulous women on this panel know this much better than I do. But and Samara she's over the years she's explained to me these things very clearly. But I mean, it's an opinion in a code, isn't it? Somebody chooses parameters.
Yeah.
It requires a model. It requires assumptions. It requires data. All of this is extremely subjective. So if men make these decisions and decide what are the assumptions, if men have the ones who've been driven data collection across the world for the past millenniums, I mean, look at women's health, for example. Cardiovascular diseases in women, they've hardly been studied, and everybody says heart attack is also in a particular way because the only data which has been collected is about men. It's data is the picture of power structures, obviously. And therefore, if you need a model, assumptions, and data, all of this cannot be neutral. So when you ingest all of this in a machine and you do not make the effort to say, I want the outcome to be fair, the outcome is not magically going to be fair. So we can't be surprised about, algorithms basically replicating, amplifying the bias which is in society. In 1 second, what is the difference? People say to me, yeah, but humans are biased anyway. Of course they are. This is why we do not want to automate that bias, because once it's automated, it becomes much more difficult to identify, much more difficult to fight, and much more difficult to contest. This is where transparency and all the rest becomes really, really important. So the bottom line is fairness is a choice. We want fair outcomes because this benefit everybody, and in particularly women. And it's in particular, so women from different backgrounds. So it's really, really important to say, fairness has to be a choice. This is why we need women deciding and making the decisions, because fairness is not automatic. It's not going to happen automatically. And bias in itself is not the problem. Bias, when it becomes harmful, that is the problem. But it can't be seen as a surprise. So we just need to be very aware, and we just need to be pushing through governance, through presence, and through diversity. We need to really push for companies to mitigate the potential bias that may emerge in the machines.
That's such a fantastic answer. You know why? Because what you just mentioned, I mean, these are for the benefit of audience here. We did not rehearse that. That's just coming straight from the heart. Because what you just said, just nicely, I'm going to segue into the question for Sunita. You mentioned about enterprises. You mentioned about bias in selection, right? So the question I have for Sunita, and this is amazing how everything kind of works, work with the four of us. The question I have for you, Sunita, and coming from what Ivana just mentioned, do you think having more women working on machine learning and AI can actually elevate the issue of selection bias? I know Ivana has said yes, but this is one of the biggest problems facing AI enterprises. And you came from a large enterprise that you probably have a lot to share with us. So over to you. Let us know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's as Ivana mentioned, right? I think if you have a good deal of mindsets, a good deal of viewpoints into any particular organization, the more you tend to realize what the shortcomings are as well. So you will find out what is actually going to break. And that's a good thing, because I think the sooner organizations find that, the better it is for them to correct that and move on, right? And then it'll not become such a large scale failure overall. But I think what is more dangerous is actually turning a blind eye to what could be going wrong and thinking that everything is perfect. And that's what happens when you don't have enough of a diverse team, right? So the more you just keep programming, you just keep coding, and you just keep living in your own little bubble, no one will ever know what happened, which went wrong, until you actually move it out to your customers, and then bam, 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 all these disasters start happening. And then you realize, oh, where did we go wrong? So that's, I think the sooner you realize that, machine learning is based on quite a few things, including basically what is AI, right? AI is how we program the systems to be. So it's not like the systems are self-generating the code. We are putting in the code into that. So whatever we have in terms of our own personal biases go into the code. So you bring in more women into the organization. They work more with customers and clients on how to avoid biases for them. You will avoid biases for the customers. But if you keep programming more and more bias into it, it is going to show up in terms of a bad outcome for your customers. And that you don't want to get to that. And that's why you want to fix it sooner. And I, like, whenever I've tried to hire for the companies I've worked in, It's always been that, women bring a fantastic flavor to the entire thing. I mean, the people I've worked with in the past, I mean, they don't come from conventional computer science backgrounds, right? They come from sociology, psychology, philosophy. And I'm like, God, you're smart. I want that, right? And I want that kind of viewpoint into it. Because without sociology, forget responsible AI, that'll never exist. You do need that mindset. You need people from, the law background. You need people from a generic psychology background as well. I think what people tend to misunderstand is that AI is not technology. It's business. And technology is just an enabler in artificial intelligence. It's not the thing. So we need to think about people from all backgrounds. And this is where diversity is super important. You're on mute, Aiza. I could go on.
Thank you for saying, yeah. But thank you for saying that, because you actually brought forth again, like I said, these are not rehearsed, but what you just said kind of allow me to ask Samara the next question. You are saying that the input into the decision has to be the correct one. We cannot have a selection bias just by having a one-track mind. We've got to consider all facets of what we are trying to do with AI. With that, I'm going to ask Samara this question. Samara, do you think that women are more likely to consider societal, ethical, and political matters in their work on AI compared to men?
Well, if you look at the AI, people look at the AI, it is like a black box, and you put the data and you get the automated decision that serve you or help you in your daily life. And when I talk about people involve women and men and also children. So definitely, like when something serves the population, the input of that thing needs to have a diversity and include all type of population. The problem that people look at, like from the technology perspective, they look at the black box or the outcome is without bias, it's effective. And the point that, or what they want to have, it's efficient outcome, is not effective outcome. So efficiency means that this outcome is not just accurate, and it needs to be explainable and transparent as well, and fair for everybody. Ivana just mentioned a good example about women and the data, the lack of data that they are used for women in the technology or in the algorithm. And I agree, yes, because from my work as a researcher, I work on detecting dementia, the early symptoms of dementia before the mild symptoms appear of the patients. And when I look on the data, I see that male has the majority. And when you develop the algorithm, whatever machine learning classifier you have, you feed your code, or you feed your model with that data, and you get the outcome. You just manage the variance or the bias in it, and then you just give it to the people as an application. But the point that this data is just for male, it's not for women. And now when lots, like more women is being involved in that data, a lot of golden parameters has appeared because of the hormones, the nature of the women body that really affect the decision. And this is, here we go, that having an accurate and a fair decision means involve a lot, like a diverse group such as women. Women are powerful creature, let me say that, and they have they tend to work, they tend to look after their kids, they tend to manage life, to manage time, and also they are perfect in coding. They are, as Sunita mentioned, they are very good in physics, they are very good in math. They have a huge power. They have the ability of multifunctioning, to be honest, more than men. So I'm really happy with that event and bringing women together to discuss their abilities, to discuss their proficiency, and the way they would like to participate in the technology, especially in the new era of the AI, that will bring a very effective automated decision for everybody.
You know, all three of you, thank you so much. I mean, we still have time, but just to share with you, I am actually the Chief Digital Business Officer in MDEC, and what does that mean? So I drive adoption, right? I drive adoption of digital in Malaysia. So the 4 areas that I'm taking care of: business digital adoption, e-commerce, digital infrastructure, which is cybersecurity. I think Ivana can relate to that. And surprise, surprise, data, and in data we have AI. So I think Malaysia and also MDEC has really got it right to put a woman. Of course, I don't have the technical capability, but I'm supported by a fantastic group of women and also men in my team. So some of the stuff that we are doing in MDEC, right? We are not entirely specifically doing anything or having a huge initiative around data or AI, but we have supported organization. We are moving into doing that, doing more around the AI, doing more around data. That's definitely my agenda for the next couple of years. But we have supported organization like She Loves Data, and also Global Women in AI and Tech. So in the last couple of minutes that we have, I just want to bring to your attention some statistics, right? So at the World Economic Forum 2020, there's only about 26% women make up only 26% of data and AI positions in the workforce. The Stanford Institute of Human-Centered AI's 2020 AI Index report found that women make up just 16%, right, of tenure-track faculty focused on AI globally. But in Malaysia, we have the rise of gig economy. So there are stay-at-home moms who followed our programs in MDEC to actually become coders, cybersecurity, subject matter expert, inshallah there, and also AI. So we do have certain programs in MDEC that caters for women who wanted to go into this area. Does not matter their background. So in the last couple of minutes, ladies, I really would like to hear this. And I'm sure you've been asked this a lot. And I hope that you can say that with candor, don't hold back. What exactly do we need for women to get into artificial intelligence and machine learning careers? And really, honestly, is there opportunities for them in this area? So with that, can I just go with, Samara, I'm looking at you right now, you go. And then I move around to the other 2 ladies.
So what we need to, what we need to have is make a lot of responsible research and innovation that's spread out in the academic and also in industry that really target women. We need to have training for women. We need to consider women's situation and women ability to work also from home, look after their kids. And I see just Ivana's little one there, Miranda. This is what happens. Like, women needs to have training. They need to be considered, not just looking after the kids. They need to make time for women. They need to make like groups for women to support each other, because women usually tend to underestimate their abilities, and especially in technology. Technology is a male-dominated field, as all of us know, because of the ability of the man go out for work and women has to look after the kids and stay at home. But I've been working with those. With responsible research innovation, we target the women, and we try to make use of their ability to serve the better decision for AI.
Thank you, Ivana. What do you think? I can see your little skits over there. It's now no longer in the frame. What do you think?
So to me, there are 2 points. I think I think there are 3 things we need to do. The first one is we need legislation to reward ethical behavior in AI and machine learning. Because I think this is really important, because I think there's a huge attraction that women have towards AI for good. So using AI for, yes, for growth in the economy, but also to tackle the challenges of our century. We're talking about climate change, we're talking about COVID. So it's really, really important. So I would say reward ethical behavior. So what does it mean for a company to have a governance structure whereby, if you if you care for fairness, if you care for outcomes and process, for due diligence, that's actually rewarded. Yeah, this is really, really important. The second one, role models. Really key to have role models all across, as present them everywhere. You can be, look at us, we're great, aren't we? So it's that's what this is what we need. This is what needs to come out. The traditional model of the male mathematician was a bit crazy, was all in TV and televisions and the media. That doesn't work. This doesn't work because artificial intelligence is much different from that. As we said, any AI artifact is a social technical product. So we need much more than that. The third thing that I say we need is global governance around artificial intelligence. I don't mean legislation that hinders development, although we shouldn't be fearful of rules, because they actually provide the safe space for businesses to grow. But what I mean is really global governance around something so transformative as AI. And why this is important to women, because I think if we have an AI governance that creates AI that people can trust, I think that will attract much more people into it. And especially women, and especially those who traditionally have been hurt by an unfettered and accountable use of technology. So I think create the framework of accountability and governance at global level and national level is really, really important to make the field much more attractive, especially those that have really been at the margins and been hurt and they have not benefited from technology.
Amazing. Thank you, Ivana. And I know that Sunita has a lot to say in this area as well, being someone in that environment where unconscious bias was just placed on her. Go for it, Sunita.
Yeah, I think I'll just add on a comment each from Ivana and Samara's points, right? So I think the first one that I do want to mention is that when people think about women and family, they think about, husband and kids. One thing which has always been sidestepped and sidelined is also parents. And I think that women have a huge responsibility towards taking care of the rest of the family as well. That is not usually considered. So I've often seen, lots of people, having that advantage. And if I don't, and I'm just like, sidelined and sidestepped and asked to overwork and everything else, right? So I think people just need to be mindful of the fact that we're all human beings at the end, regardless of, what we have, what responsibilities we have. Just be aware of the fact that, don't ask a person to stay over time for no reason. I think things like that, just basic human skills, I think are very important. And women do appreciate that. I think the second point that was made, I think that was by Ivana, is for role models. I completely agree. I also think that women should lift other women up instead of thinking of them as competition, which tends to happen a lot amongst women. So definitely do not think of another rising woman as your competition. Bring her up, because the more we rise to the top, the more we can bring in other women. And I think the third point I want to make is to have a very proper career map for every single woman entering the workforce. They want to know what they're up for. They want to know where they're going, and they want to know how they're going to be rewarded. So I think all those things have to definitely be discussed and well laid out. And the fourth and the final point is a proper role and responsibility. Without a defined role, I know that sometimes, you're in the crux of things and things are changing. People are aware of that. But I think overall, people want to have accountability of something in the organization, and they don't mind it. The more you give them the responsibility and the accountability, the more they'll learn from it and grow. But otherwise, it just becomes very icky for girls. I've often seen girls, younger women, actually leave the workforce because they don't have a proper career map in front of them. They just found so much of disturbance in the organization. They didn't know where they fit. So all those things need to be kind of laid out for people.
Thank you, ladies. And I have been a bit cheeky, and I know the ladies know that this is exactly what I'm going to do. I'm trying to extend from the half an hour that was given to us because this is a very important topic. This is a much awaited panel, and I don't think anyone would leave this room not learning anything. We have given so much, especially the three of you. But just very quickly to summarize, I like the last bit of what you're saying, and I invite everybody that's watching, and please also spread the word. This is recorded. Everyone can go back and listen to Ivana, listen to Samara, listen to Sunita. Some of the things that I want to kind of conclude, and this is not actually conclusion, this is more like call to action. First of all, look at Samara, look at Ivana. They're mothers, they have kids. You know, Samara is sitting behind her is the graffiti by the child. And Sunita talks about being able to care for parents. These are real people doing extraordinary work. All three of you are ordinary, no, really extraordinary, but you know what I'm saying, right? Ordinary human being trying to do extraordinary work. So AI and technology has always been seen like, oh, it has to be like what Ivana said. And what you said too, it has to be, you know, like someone who look like a geek and maybe mad scientist hairdo, and really someone that's just fitting into those archetype of being a genius. But no, this particular revolution, if I may call it, is all of us. The four of us are doing it, and I really hope, and I know that I'm starting from today to have role models, and whether you like it or not, whether you're up for the job, all the three of you are going to be in the top 3 of my role models. We also hope that we can continue this conversation again. Global governance is, of course, very, very important, Ivana. That's fantastic what you just said. Let's give it a shot. Samara, you also brought about research and innovation that fits, get women participation, take more data from women. And Sunita, you talk about real roles and responsibilities, all career mapped out. So for all the points that you brought up, we really hope that something can happen from today, whether it's led by women, advocated by men. We certainly hope that this is going to be a game changer. It already is with the three of you. I thank you for your time. I'm absolutely inspired. I'm absolutely honored to be here, and I hope you had as much fun as I have. Therefore, thank you so much for everyone for listening. Please go back to the recording and listen to the three wonderful ladies that we have, the one in AI and trying to fight unconscious bias. Thank you so much, everybody. And I shall see you soon. And stay safe, social distancing. Over to you, Nadia.
Thank you very much, Aiza. I believe you summed it up so beautifully. All these remarkable women are truly doing extraordinary work and serves as an inspiration to each and every one of us. So thank you so much for that eye-opening discussion that really shines the spotlight and addresses the unconscious bias in AI. As a woman standing here watching all four of you talk earlier on, I am immensely inspired by the sharing of all of you lovely ladies to achieve the limitless possibilities that we can truly achieve, as our panelists have depicted earlier on. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have one final session before we wrap up day 1 of MTM 2021. Do join us as the session will begin shortly. And as always, please do fill up the survey form by clicking on the icon below. I'll see you soon.